Hey everyone, Selena here, founder, host, lead educator with the American Crochet Association. I'm also the writer behind Selena Bacher Crochet, of course, so I'm sharing this video in all of those places. If you're watching live or in the replay, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. As long as I'm here live, we can make it a fun conversation, so don't be afraid to shout out. And while I take breaks in between my little skit here, I'll say hey, and we can make it a fun conversation. So I write patterns under Selena Bacher Crochet, of course, and some of those patterns are shared for everyone to view for free at the American Crochet Association. And as I share those patterns, I like to add in little resources just to kind of help you build your crochet knowledge, skill, and ability. Not only to make the patterns that I share, but hopefully will allow you to crochet other things without speed bumps or anything that will help or anything that will hinder your progress. So the granny square cardigan that I'm sharing today is not a brand new pattern. It's been around for a couple years, but I've been on a granny square kick. If you know, you know. I've been talking about and sharing all things granny squares lately. And so I'm going through all of my granny square resources and patterns and just making sure that they're all up to date. And I'm updating all of them to make sure that they have this great new format that I think we all like. I think we do. So I just wanted to walk you guys through the format and make sure you see all of the resources that are available here in this pattern. This is just a pattern chat. This is not a tutorial. So if you guys just want to jump straight to the pattern, I've added the link in the video description so you can click on over there and view everything that you see here. Now, before we jump into this, it looks like a few of you guys are here. So shout out to Amanda Woodbury. Always so good to see you. Thank you so much for checking in. Angelica is here. Hello, my friend. Thanks for seeing us. Amanda says all the granny square patterns. Yep. And yeah, this is the last granny square pattern I'm going to share for a little bit, I think. I don't have another one planned for another minute. So hopefully you guys super love granny squares as much as I do, and you love all of the things granny squares that I've been sharing with you. And for the very few of you who are out there who are like, I don't like granny squares, maybe you guys are sold by now. Maybe I've shown you enough granny square designs and enough granny square that maybe you're a little bit of a fan. Maybe. If you're watching, you're a fan, right? Is that how it goes? Okay. All right, guys. Again, the link for this granny square cardigan is in the video description, so you can just click on over to find this pattern. Make sure you pin it to the social platforms. Make sure you pin it to Pinterest. Share it to social. You can email this to yourself. You can bookmark this page, all those things so that you can quickly and easily find this. You guys can also just quickly and easily buy a PDF version from Ravelry, and that's going to be your copy that you can save, print, download. That is just the pattern instructions with the chart and the diagram and all of that. So if you just want that, I've got that available for you too. Okay, so when I say I'm on a granny square kick, I love using the very classic granny square motif. So, I mean, no changes, no variations in that. We're doing the same granny square thing, but we're taking that motif and I'm making tons of different things with it. So I've shown you guys things like a pillow cover, a table runner, a granny square market bag, so many other kinds of things with granny squares. And this is another pattern in that realm. So this is the granny square cardigan. To where we are taking that classic granny square motif, we're joining those motifs together, and then we're building on that to make this design right here. So, quick poll before we really dive into this. Have you ever made a granny square before? Raise your hand. Let me know in the comments. Anybody here, have you made a granny square before? Or have you not ever made a granny square before? Let me know. Either way. So I either want a yes or no. Yes, I've made a granny square. No, I've never made a granny square. And then, after that, if you've made granny squares, have you done more than one thing with them? Typically with granny squares, it's just like, I'm going to make a blanket. I'm going to make a trivet. I'm going to make a coaster. We make these very one-dimensional things with maybe just one square. Or I made a pillow cover with two squares kind of put together. So what I'm doing here is, again, I'm taking that classic granny square and I'm doing so much more with it And that way we're still making the granny squares that we like, but we're turning them into something that looks so much more than a granny square, right? Okay, oh, it looks like Sophie's here. Hey, Sophie, thanks for checking in. Okay, Amanda Woodbury is raising all of her hands. She has made granny squares before, so has Sophie. Angelica might have made one or two, maybe. All right, guys. So if you want more details on what a granny square is, how to make it, video tutorials, all that kind of stuff, the history of granny squares, more resources, I've got that for you. Again, just click on the link in the video description and it'll take you to something that'll take you to something, okay? If you guys want to see more finished granny square cardigans, we're going to look at them together in just a minute because I think it's so much fun to just be inspired by all those different projects. But I do have links for you guys to get to the resource. Again, I have been talking about granny squares nonstop this entire year. So if you guys want to see our other granny square patterns that I've written and shared with the American Crochet Association, you guys can click on over to check out the granny square bag, granny square crochet pillow cover. Man, say that 5 times fast. And the granny square crochet table runner, just to make a few. Again, these are all made with that classic granny square motif, and we're just transforming them into other things. So because this is a garment, this is something that's going to be worn, yarn is kind of important. So I talk a little bit about the exact yarn that I used for this, the materials, the materials that I used for this, the exact yarn that I used for this. I give you a little bit of detail about the yarn that I used, why I used it. And I also walk you through how to substitute, and I give you different yarns that I think would make great yarn substitutes. I love using yarnsub.com because it's quick, it's easy, it's free. You can type in any yarn, and based on the qualifications or based on the characteristics of that yarn, it'll give you other yarns that kind of qualify as substitutes, and it'll tell you why those qualify as substitutes. So I've already gone to yarnsub.com for the yarn that I used, and I did find some substitutes that I think I would totally use. And so if you just want to quickly and easily get some resources, I've got those for you there. If you want to learn more about yarn substitution, she's hefty. She's got a lot to offer. And there's more than just one thing to consider. So I've got some tips in a separate article that I wrote for that. If you just want to get this pattern on Ravelry, you just want the PDF that you can save, print, download for later with just the instructions, I've got the pattern linked for you so you can get it on Ravelry. I've added some additional pictures and I'm changing the way I share my pictures. So let me know what you guys think about this too, because this is definitely one of those format updates. So for this cardigan here, I already showed a picture of the front. That was the first picture that we saw up here. So this is what it looks like in the front. We can see that it's open in the front and it has short sleeves. And then here is a picture of the back of the cardigan. We can see that it's solid in the back, and we see those granny squares, but they're kind of hidden just because of the yarn that I used. Now, I used Caron Cotton Angel Cakes. And if you've ever used one of the Caron cake yarns, you might realize that, it's a yarn that's been around for a minute. It's been around for a couple of years now. It comes in those big cakes. And sometimes they make the yarn in a different texture a little bit, like there were ripple cakes a little while ago. But some of the yarns are really just, I think they're like exactly the same. Don't quote me on that. But it's like the coloring is different. So with this angel cake right here, the yarn really looks like this beautiful stone washed kind of, it's a very light ombre effect to where it kind, from far away, it kind of looks like it's the same color. You can see there's variation. And when you get closer, you can really see some darker and some lighter shades in with that main color, which is kind of this purpley color, right? This kind of gray purple. So that's why I chose this particular yarn, because I got a lot of it. I got one giant cake. And I like that the yarn was essentially this. It wasn't a solid color. I really love that stonewash kind of variation in it. So in that, we can see that there's a pattern here. We can see that there's this interesting stitch pattern from far away. When we get closer, if you know, you're going to see those granny squares in there. So it's enough like difference that you can kind of pick out those motifs. But I love that the color really kind of hides those transitions enough to where you can see it, but you can't. So here, I think yarn color is really going to make a huge difference, to where if you wanted to use a variegated yarn with like really short color repeats or really long color repeats, I think it's really going to be interesting, you know, how that's depicted here, because we do have the granny square motifs going up the center. Let me just call it the center, because essentially, you know, we see granny squares in the front and then the granny squares in the back. Those motifs are worked in rounds, so the color variation that you use is going to look very different in those motifs, but the sides are added out in rows. And so whatever yarn you use, the color variation is going to look very different to that for that too. So if you use a very long color stripe, it's going to, you know, maybe one or two colors, depending on how long that stripe is going to be maybe represented in the squares in the round. But then when you get to the stripes, you're going to see these stripes of color. So again, depending on what yarn you choose, it can really make this project look very different. So yeah, we'll take a peek at a few projects with different colors, just so you can really see what I mean too. All right, how to crochet a granny square cardigan. I've got granny square tips. I've got a video tutorial that walks you through exactly how you can follow the written instructions here in this pattern or the chart to make that classic granny square, because again, that's kind of the foundation for this. We're using the exact same granny square. We're making strips of granny squares by joining each granny square that's created to the last that was created. So if you want to see that in action, this is a great resource for you. I have everything that you need here to, I have everything listed here, and that's everything you need to know, do, and have to make this. So what yarn, how much yarn, different materials, the hook size, you know, the scissors, the yarn needle, the stitch key. These are worked with classic granny square motifs, and it really does just use basic stitches, so chain, single, double. And if you need to see any of those in action, everything that's underlined is going to be a video tutorial for you. This does have a few specialty stitches and techniques, and I do have video tutorials for you. So if you want to see the adjustable loop in action, I've got that. If you want to see that, Goose is all excited about that video tutorial. And if you want to see the join as you go method worked, particularly with granny squares, there's probably a leaf outside. It's very upset by foliage. Sorry, guys. If you have a dog, you know. Welcome to the live show. If you want to see the join as you go method worked, particularly with granny squares, I've got a video tutorial to help. Gauge is very important for this. There are very specific sizes. Goose, you're being rude. He doesn't care. Gauge is important here, but it's easily measured as you go, because you are starting this pattern with those classic granny squares, and each one of those granny squares is going to be measured not only by width, so each granny square, but by length, and that's the number of granny squares that you make. So while gauge is very important and size is important, this is one of those kinds of patterns that's very adjustable. So you can follow the exact pattern for the exact size that you think you want to make for these particular measurements. But I will say, because this is a garment, style and fit are two completely different things. So if you want to make a cardigan that fits your body, if you want it to be a little more fitted, then all you're going to do is measure where this garment is going to go, measure your own personal dimensions, and find a size that's going to best fit that. If you want this to be far larger, or if you want it to be just a little larger or much larger, you can absolutely do that. So for example, maybe, and let's just, I'm just ballparking here. Let's say my body measures a traditional medium as per this measurement chart. Let's just say that. I can follow a medium size, and maybe it will look exactly like this on me. Maybe this is a medium size body and this is a medium size garment, and my, stitch fabric exactly matches the measurements in the pattern. And, this is what it looks like, to where you can tell that it's just a little, there's a little bit of space, so where it's not skin tight to my body, but it's not larger, much larger than my body measurements. I could totally, if I wanted to, make the largest size, not really changing anything about the yarn that I'm using or the hook size or anything like that. And it's going to be a far larger garment. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the style that you want to rock. You can absolutely substitute yarn to use something larger or smaller than the pattern calls for, because this is absolutely something you can measure as you go. It's very simple repeats, not only for the motifs that you make, but also for the rows that you add to make the width of this. So those things are so easy to customize. And that way, if you really drastically want to change your substitute yarn, or if you want to drastically change or substitute the style that you make, it's very easy to adapt and adjust. So enjoy. But if you're the kind of person that's like, look, I just want to make that thing and I want it to look like that on my body, then I do have very specific instructions for small, medium, large, extra large, 2X, and 3X with dimensions for each one of those things. If you want to learn more about what it means to crochet a swatch, because I talk about that just a little bit, especially pertaining to a granny square being kind of a swatch for this pattern, I've got some resources for you. Pattern notes, like for the best fit, if you want something fitted, I just talked about that, or if you want something a little oversized, I have some tips about that, how this pattern is worked, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all the instructions are laid out here, and I have them sectioned. So there's the joining squares, there's the panels. I do have a stitch chart and a diagram, the side seams, the back seam, and I have all of those very particularly laid out in sections. So this is what it looks like on our little table of contents here. And this is kind of what I mean. This is why I'm going back over and kind of reformatting all these things. I don't want anyone to get lost in the articles that I share, the patterns that I share, and I don't want anyone to feel like they can't find a piece of instruction. So if you just want to get straight to the granny square instruction, you can do that. Or if you want to see a particular section in action, like the joining squares, panel, stitch chart, a side seam, back seam, finishing, all you have to do is just click on that piece and it'll take you straight to that part of the pattern. All of the pattern instructions, all the notes are italicized. Well, the sections are in bolds, so that's, so you can see what section you're in. Then the notes are italicized. And then something new that I've been doing, and I think everyone likes it, is that all of the pattern instruction pieces, either it be like a row or a round, so, in its entirety. What I've been doing is I've been adding bullet points next to each one of those, and that way you can quickly and easily find them. So I hope that's how you guys feel about this. I haven't heard anything negative yet, so I keep doing it. But let me know what you guys think about how these instructions are formatted. This is just a formatting thing that I'm doing in the free patterns that I'm sharing on the website. I have not changed the formatting outside of that printer-friendly version if you do purchase a PDF. So let me know what you think. All right, guys. Again, I've got a diagram for you here, not just for the granny square motif, but also for the panels. And either one of those things are totally adjustable. So if you want to add more joining squares, more granny squares to make your garment longer in length, you can, or shorter in length, you can totally do that. And the panel, of course, is worked into the sides of the granny squares, and you can add as many rows to make it as wide, or, shorten the amount of rows to make it a little more narrow. So it's really fun and easy to adjust. All right, guys, so that's it. That's all I have for you. This is the pattern that I just finished all of those updates on. And again, you guys can see all of those updatings, not just in the fonts and the colors and the pictures, but, just this quick and easy table of contents. Hopefully we'll share everything, all of the resources this pattern has to offer to walk you through different aspects of this pattern to help you feel successful, or just take you straight to the instructions if that's what you're looking for. All right, now on that note, let's see who else is here and what you guys are saying. Let's see. All right. Carolyn is here. Hello, I'm currently making the Granny Pop cardigan. That's a pretty popular one. I've seen that all over the internet. Roseanne is here. Good afternoon to you. Becky is here. Hi. I may have made a handful of the granny squares. Yeah, absolutely. Amanda says, I don't think I've used that yarn yet. I just was looking around for, or as I was building up the resources for this and I was linking to external resources, I did find that Caron Cotton Angel Cake yarn in a few different colors, and I found it in a few different places that you guys can still purchase it. So whether or not it's discontinued, I don't know. I didn't see that. But the Caron Cotton Cake line is alive and well in various colors. Goose, Angelica says hi. So does Amanda. Stacy says, I love that your dog's name is Goose. It's pretty cute, right? He's a goosey dog. All right, guys. So the last few things that I wanted to share with you was just that, again, this pattern is available on Ravelry, and it's got a lot of the same resources and just pattern notes as the article has. And again, this is where you can purchase a PDF version of the pattern. I do have it all linked in the article. So many different resources, including finished granny square cardigans. So you can see it on lots of different body shapes, body sizes. You can see different colors of yarn. You can see solids. You can see striped yarn. You can see variegated yarn. So many different outfits and things like that. So definitely click on over and check that out. If you're thinking about making this, but you don't know what colors or what yarns or anything like that, definitely come on over and check this out because there are a lot of great and fun resources here. So of those projects, just to show you like a few of the different yarns that people have used to work this up, it looks like Karen Cotton Cakes was used a few times. Karen Cotton Angel Cakes, that's what I used, was used a few times. Trendsetter Yarn, Translutions, the Woman's Institute Soft and Smooth, Lion Brand Comfy Cotton, and Lion Brand Shawl in a Ball. So, I mean, already kind of a variety of different yarns, yarn weights, yarn textures, yarn colors. So you can check out all of those yarns, see how they worked up, again, over there on Ravelry. All right, everyone, that's all I have for you guys today. It looks like the last person that I see here is Sharon. Sharon says, I haven't used that yarn yet. Okay. Yeah, I highly recommend this yarn, this Karen Cotton Cakes yarn, particularly for garments like this. It's just such a great blend of yarn. It's, it's cotton and acrylic, so it's got all the fantastic features and qualities of both of those. It's so light, it's so airy, it's soft, it's very durable. So it's all the things that you want in something that you're going to make to wear. I've got all the details and so much more information when you click on the link in the video description to take you to the granny square cardigan that I wrote and I'm sharing with the American Crochet Association. All right, guys, again, if you dig this pattern, if you dig this video, maybe tag a crochet friend in the comments, share this video in at least one place that you enjoy crochet if you think they'll dig it too. And let me know what you think in the comments, especially if you make this granny square cardigan. I'd love to see. All right, everybody. Peace, love, crochet. Thanks for being here. See you next time.